Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2 are some of my favorite games of all time, with Super Monkey Ball 2 specifically being my favorite game of all time. I have put a ton of hours into these games. I have played them so many times, just over and over and over again. There is just something about the gameplay and the incredibly responsive control of these games that is just so addicting. These games are genuinely some of the best feeling games I have ever played. They are very difficult. Like seriously, these games took me a while to finish my first time around. And they are just so replayable with some absolutely amazing and creative level design. Like, look at how fun some of these levels are. Combine that with their amazing soundtracks, visuals, and some pretty fun mini games, especially Monkey Target, you've got yourself one hell of a duology on the Gamecube. But despite me being just absolutely obsessed with these games, you'd think I would have checked out the other Super Monkey Ball games. I mean, there is a pretty decent amount of them, but I really have not checked out many of the other games in this series. Until now. Let's start with Super Monkey Ball Jr., released for the Game Boy Advance in November 2002. This game is essentially a demake of the first Super Monkey Ball game on Gamecube, which was made by a developer called Realism. This game was only released in the US and Europe. It never got a release in Japan for some reason. Up to that point, there had been 3 entries in the Monkey Ball series. First, the original arcade game released in June of 2001, then obviously Super Monkey Ball and Super Monkey Ball 2. So how is this game? I mean, a port of a GameCube game on the Game Boy Advance, which is much less powerful, that can't be any good, right? Well, it's definitely not a terrible game, but it's not great either. Now, this game is very impressive for the hardware it's running on. I mean, the fact that they got a Super Monkey Ball game running on a console like the Game Boy Advance is pretty impressive. It actually kind of works. It's honestly a really cool novelty, and it kind of runs okay too. It's not nearly as smooth as the GameCube game, but it's still pretty tolerable for the most part. But the control is definitely not great. The game obviously feels a lot different because it's restricted to the Game Boy Advance's D-pad, which really lacks the precision of the GameCube analog stick. The game feels pretty sluggish and slow. I can't feel quite at home with it. The starting speed is especially very slow. Everything just feels very delayed. The momentum also feels way different. They really messed it up here. Like in this level here, Advanced Floor 9. For the life of me, I could just not build up enough momentum to get over to this platform. This game features most of the same levels from the first Super Monkey Ball game, some being altered to accommodate the control of this game. There's also a lot less levels in this game. For example, in the original game, Expert Mode had 50 stages, where this one only has 30 in its Expert Mode. This game also has redone music for the limitations of the Game Boy Advance, which is pretty neat to hear. Graphically, the game is very impressive for the GBA. I'm really surprised how well it runs. So overall, this game is pretty sluggish, slow, imprecise, and overall, not that great. But damn it, they really tried to make this game work on the GBA. And well, it kinda does. It's very commendable, even if it is far from perfect. There was also a Monkey Ball game on the Nokia N-Gage. Man, what a weird handheld. That was very similar to Super Monkey Ball Jr. This one is literally just titled Super Monkey Ball, and it was actually a launch title for the Nokia N-Gage in 2003. Not much to say here, but I did notice that the music is ripped straight from the GameCube game, as opposed to Jr.'s remade soundtrack. Our next game up is Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, which was released for the PlayStation 2 and Xbox in March of 2005. Seems Xbox and PlayStation 2 players were really deprived of the awesomeness that is Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2, but their prayers were answered with this game. I will mostly be looking at the Xbox version, but don't worry, I will also be showing the PlayStation 2 version. Super Monkey Ball Deluxe is basically a port of Monkey Ball 1 and 2 with some new levels thrown in there as well. It's kind of weird though because the Monkey Ball 1 levels are not separate from the Monkey Ball 2 levels. I kind of don't really like this. I'd honestly prefer the levels to be separate. And yikes, the amount of levels in the main difficulty modes is just crazy. 100 levels in the expert mode compared to 50 on Gamecube. That's just too much at once. It's pretty interesting seeing Monkey Ball 1's levels with Monkey Ball 2's HUD elements and slightly different camera angle. Monkey Ball 1's levels are also given names to match with the rest of the Monkey Ball 2 and new deluxe levels, where in the original GameCube games, the levels were just called floors. The new levels introduced in this game are alright, I suppose. I'm not nearly as familiar with these levels, but hey, they are more Monkey Ball levels, so they are pretty fun. So all of this sounds awesome. I mean, it seems like it would be an almost full-on replacement for the GameCube games, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Let's start with the little things that, well, don't entirely matter in the grand scheme of things, but are just kind of weird. So one thing that you will instantly notice is that the Super Monkey Ball 2 cutscenes are pre-rendered, where the GameCube game's cutscenes were internally rendered. This really makes no sense considering the Xbox was more powerful than the GameCube. Like, you're seriously telling me that the original Xbox couldn't render this? They look super washed out and blurry. It's just awful. I mean, I guess I understand the PS2 not being able to render this since it was the least powerful of the three consoles here, but there's really no excuse for the Xbox version. Some of the sound effects are just completely messed up in this game. Like, the sound effect that plays when you roll around just sounds completely wrong. Sometimes there's no sound at all when you roll around. Also, the Dole sponsorship was dropped in this game, meaning there's now no Dole logos on the bananas, which makes this game completely unplayable. Nah, I'm just kidding. So all of these are not really that important at the end of the day. But what really kills this version for me is the control. The problem with the control of Deluxe is due to the Xbox and PS2 analog sticks. These analog sticks really lack the precision of the 8-directional GameCube analog stick. The 8 directions of that analog stick really helped with making precise movements. But since the Xbox and PS2 analog sticks lack an octagonal gate, it makes the game a lot more frustrating because of the lack of precision. That really is my biggest issue with this game. Monkey Ball 1 and 2 were just not designed with these analog sticks in mind. I guess I haven't really shown much of the PS2 version, haven't I? And for good reason. This version is genuinely terrible. Gone is the smooth 60 frames per second. It now runs at 30 frames per second, which, like, come on, a Monkey Ball game on a home console not running at 60 frames per second? That just sucks. And graphically, it took a pretty big hit. Plus, the load times are absolutely terrible in this version. God, finally. I also think it feels even worse to play than the Xbox version due to the PS2's analog stick being way more bulky. The Xbox version is absolutely the best way to play Deluxe. I mean, despite my problems with the control, the Xbox version honestly isn't horrible. I mean, I definitely wouldn't recommend it over the GameCube versions, but if it's all you got, it ain't too bad. It's also backwards compatible with the Xbox 360. But there is one version of Deluxe that is better than the Xbox and PS2 versions. There exists a ROM hack for Super Monkey Ball 2 that ports Super Monkey Ball Deluxe to the GameCube. This is absolutely the best way to play Deluxe. And the best part about it is that you can play it on a real GameCube or Wii through a modded system. I did experience some slowdown playing it on my actual GameCube. It was probably designed for Dolphin first and foremost, and it probably works really well on there if you hook it up with a GameCube controller. Okay, I've had enough of Monkey Ball Deluxe. Let's talk about something else. Now this game really took me by surprise. That game is Super Monkey Ball Touch and Roll, released in December 2005 in Japan and everywhere else in February 2006. One of the first things you will notice by just looking at the box art of this game is that II and Friends got a new redesign. Now I definitely don't prefer these designs over the originals. I really think they nailed it the first time with Monkey Ball 1 and 2. But, you know, in their own right, these designs are pretty good. They definitely feel more cute here, but they still feel like the characters we all know and love. Booting up the game, we've got this title screen that really emphasizes the touchscreen in this game. Like, look, II is shaking his ass at me saying, "Touch me." Like, did they seriously not think this through? Well, since this game is called Touch and Roll, I'm gonna try the touch control with this game first. And well, it works fine enough, but I don't know, I can't get quite used to this control method. It kind of reminds me of how Super Mario 64 DS has a touch control option, but I never used that feature much in that game. Weirdly enough, I actually felt more in control with the D-pad. It feels like there's way more room for error with the touch control. Now again, a D-pad is still not the most ideal control method for a Monkey Ball game, but the game actually feels good to control, unlike Monkey Ball Jr., so I can kind of look past it. I'm serious, this game genuinely has that snappy feel of 1 and 2, just without the nuance given to you by an analog stick. But comparing the movement of this game to Jr., it's like night and day, despite them both using an inferior and more limiting control method. A lot of the levels are ripped straight from Monkey Ball 1 and 2, though there are some new ones here as well. The game doesn't look half bad either. The level environments and backgrounds look really cool. They've got a somewhat similar realistic look like Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2. Like, look at this forest here. This looks awesome. It also runs at 60 frames per second, which is just so nice. Man, technology was just advancing so fast back then. I mean, you're telling me in only a few years, Monkey Ball on handhelds went from this to this? The music isn't anything that crazy in this game. I don't really got anything to say about it. One annoying thing in this game is that you can't skip any of the credits in this game. Quite odd. There's mini games here as well. No Monkey Target, unfortunately, but these feel pretty at home on the DS. So overall, this game really impressed me. Not only did they make a genuinely good handheld Monkey Ball game, they also made a super solid Monkey Ball game as well. Who would have guessed? So up to this point, ever since Super Monkey Ball 2 came out, every other entry in this series has either been ports or handheld games. But that was all about to change with the release of a brand new video game console. That game being Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz for the Wii. So, Super Monkey Ball Adventure is a game. It was developed by Traveler's Tales of LEGO Star Wars fame. This was not their first time doing a Sega franchise, as they also developed Sonic 3D Blast and Sonic R, which aren't too bad, I guess. Good soundtracks though, especially for Sonic R. Super Monkey Ball Adventure was released on the GameCube, PlayStation 2, and the damn PlayStation Portable. The game was first released in Europe in June of 2006 for the PS2 and PSP, with a GameCube version releasing later in July in that region. Then every version of that game was released in North America in August 2006. No Japanese release either, but don't worry, they weren't missing out on anything. I will be looking at the GameCube version. And oh my god, I cannot believe how bad this game is. So instead of the simple and excellent gameplay of rolling a monkey in a ball to the end of the stage, instead, this game is a 3D platformer. Yikes! The game starts off with Ai and friends cooking bananas? Wonder what that would taste like. Then you start the game and this is just terrible. So since this game is a 3D platformer, you would probably expect to, be able to jump. But since they really wanted to stay true to the philosophy of Super Monkey Ball, you cannot jump. Instead, you can go onto these flower-looking things which you can bounce on, which are found around the open worlds. The control is definitely functional, but it's just crappy enough to be incredibly frustrating at times. There were multiple times I just fell off the map because oops, I took a wrong turn and whoops, the control is just too slippery, so I just fall to my doom. There's also abilities you can unlock like a boxing glove. Very reminiscent of Monkey Fight. But for some reason, you need to do a chant to even use these abilities. These chants are located in the pause menu, but there's plenty of buttons on the controller, why can't I just use those to change the abilities? The main worlds you explore are incredibly boring. All you do is tasks for these monkeys, like finding this guy's daughter in a top hat or launching yourself on these trees to wake up these guards. There's no sense of direction in these worlds at all. I'm just mindlessly rolling around these worlds confused as to what the hell I'm supposed to do next. And why the hell do almost all the monkeys in this game have the same voice as Ai? This guy has the same voice as Ai. The damn king has the same voice as Ai, except it's a little lower pitched. Hell, even Gon has the same voice as Ai, but at a lower pitch. Which makes absolutely no sense because he had a voice in the original games. Like, what? Other than the atrocious and boring missions in this game, you find these things in the worlds called the Puzzle Gate, where you actually play traditional Monkey Ball levels. Now, traditional is stretching it a bit because these also suck too. The level designs are nowhere near as good as the originals, and it uses the same control as the open world, which feels vastly inferior to the control of the original games. These are incredibly half-assed, and they even have the audacity to use music from the first Monkey Ball game on GameCube in these levels. But maybe I'm glad they did because the music original to this game is nothing to write home about. The graphics in this game are passable, but not even near the level of the originals. Though there is some pretty impressive lighting here and there. This game also has widescreen support, which out of all games, I wouldn't have expected this one to have it, but Monkey Ball 2 also had widescreen support, so I guess it's not that shocking. There's also challenge mode and party games, but I'm just done. I'm not even gonna bother. So overall, this game is just absolutely horrible. It's easily the worst game in this entire series. It doesn't even feel like a real game that exists. It's seriously one of the most bizarre games I have ever played. I mean, you're telling me in only 4 years, Super Monkey Ball went from this to whatever the frick this is? This game is a complete and total insult to the legacy of Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2. I genuinely cannot believe this game was approved and released. It was clearly pretty rushed, so maybe with some more time in the oven, it maybe could have been an okay game, but even then, I don't think they could have saved this one. I really wanted to try and get to the second world of this game, but I just can't put myself through that. Sorry. Alright, so after that thing, Sega went back to form with a brand new Super Monkey Ball game, releasing day and date for the Nintendo Wii, which, in case you didn't know, released in November of 2006. That game being Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz. It's kind of crazy that this game and Adventure only came out months apart. I've heard a lot of mixed feelings about this game, so I wonder if it's any good. Let's find out. One of the first things you'll notice about this game is that they completely changed the art style from the first two games. Now, this is an absolute shame because I thought the art style of those games were genuinely perfect. The environments were so detailed and they felt somewhat realistic as well. It just looks amazing. But that being said, I honestly don't hate this game's art style. It really doesn't look bad. It's definitely not on the level of the originals, but graphically, this game doesn't look bad at all, even if the level environments don't have as much detail as the original games. It also continues the character designs used in Touch and Roll, which, again, I don't prefer over the originals, but I think they fit pretty well with the art style and graphics. They also added 2 new monkeys to the cast, Yan Yan and Doctor, which they are alright additions, I suppose. So what's the gameplay like? Well, it's not great. So since this was a launch title on Nintendo's fancy new Wii console, it seems they really wanted to take advantage of the fancy motion control capabilities of the Wii Remote. And yeah, this doesn't work great, like, at all. Gone is the absolutely amazing control of the Gamecube games. Instead, you use the Wii Remote to control your monkey. The Wii Remote is just way too imprecise and loosey-goosey for a game like Monkey Ball. I feel like I'm never in control at times. I'm constantly overshooting and undershooting. Like, I get what they were trying to do with this. They had the right idea because on paper, this is kind of a neat idea. But in practice, it just does not work well. Due to the control of this game being not so hot, they really had to dumb down the level design to accommodate the control. There's tons of guardrails in a lot of them. They just aren't nearly as interesting or in-depth as the original GameCube games. They feel so linear. There's also, jumping now, which I really don't like. I like that you were restricted in the original games by not being able to jump. This feels like just another addition to accommodate the control. Another thing that they added that I don't really like is the boss fights. These are really big pace breakers and don't really add anything to the gameplay. And some of them just suck, like this boss in the desert world. It takes place on this giant robot dinosaur thing, and it's not too bad at first. But then on the final portion of this boss, the game completely changes the camera positioning, which is just so jarring and it really threw me off. Like, look at this. What the hell? I swear I didn't do this intentionally. Man, I need a break. I'm gonna go get a drink. Wait, what? Okay, so this is just weird. For some reason, you cannot simply pause the game by normally tapping the plus button. You have to hold down the plus button for longer than usual. For a bit there, I genuinely thought that the only way you could pause in this game was by using the home button, because in most games, if you just tap the pause button like normal, the game pauses, but oh no, not this game. Okay, that might have been a little too nitpicky, but like, come on. Why do I literally have to hold down the plus button for longer than usual just to pause? It just makes no sense. Like, come on, guys. On a more positive note, there's some pretty okay music here. Weirdly enough, a lot of the music are remixes of music from Touch and Roll, but they don't sound bad. I like this track in the third world, composed by Hideki Naganuma of Jet Set Radio and Sonic Rush fame. Good stuff. There's also mini games in this game as well, 50 of them in total. These are pretty bad, like 50 is just way too many. They should have focused on making less mini games that were a lot more high quality. The control in these mini games can be absolutely atrocious at times. They also totally messed up Monkey Target, which is a grave sin. The mini games are by far the worst part of this game. Don't even bother. Overall, this isn't a bad game, but it's pretty mediocre. I can respect them trying to do new things with the Monkey Ball formula, but it just doesn't work well. So after Banana Blitz came out, there were numerous mobile phone Monkey Ball games that would come out. But I'm not going to be covering those because I'm sticking to the console games. But in February 2010, the next entry in the Super Monkey Ball series would be released. And that game is Super Monkey Ball Step and Roll for the Wii. And looking at the box art for this game, we are already off to a bad start. Yikes! We've got Ai on the Wii balance board, and there's this little logo here that says compatible with the Wii balance board. A Super Monkey Ball game designed around the Wii balance board? That can't be good. So how does this game play with the Wii balance board? Well, it plays like complete and total dog turds. Playing this game with the Wii balance board, the controller this game was heavily advertised with, feels awful with this game. It is basically impossible to make any precise or accurate movements. Basic movements like turning become a total slog with this control setup. And if you slightly mess up or like miss a banana or something, it's a complete nightmare to correct yourself. I genuinely had just an absolutely horrible time with this game. I mean, look at this. Does this look like I'm having fun? Now you can play this game with just a Wii remote, like how you could in Banana Blitz, but the problem with that is that these levels were heavily designed around the awful and imprecise balance board control. So the game becomes incredibly boring and honestly pointless as a result. The mini games are also just terrible in this game, much like Banana Blitz. There's less this time, so they were probably able to put in a little more effort into them, but they really aren't anything special. Plus, Monkey Target still sucks. The only really nice thing I have to say about this game is that visually, it looks fine enough, and the music is decent, but that's the bare minimum. So that's all I have to say about this game. It's genuinely a pretty terrible game with nothing really appealing about it. I didn't even get a single ounce of enjoyment from this game. It's less insulting than something like Monkey Ball Adventure, but still, this is easily one of the worst Monkey Ball games. So Step and Roll was an absolute dud, so what could be next after that? Well, the next entry in the Monkey Ball series would be a launch title for Nintendo's new 3DS system in March 2011. Can you guess what it's called? Super Monkey Ball 3D. I wouldn't have guessed. A Monkey Ball game on the 3DS? That sounds awesome! I mean, Touch and Roll was pretty solid, and that was on the original DS with inferior D-pad control. So surely this game can't disappoint. I mean, it's on more powerful hardware after all, with a method of control much closer to an actual analog stick. And they totally screwed it up. I mean, you just can't make this up. They literally had a match made in heaven, but they just totally fumbled it. I genuinely can't believe it. So what is so bad about this game, you may be asking? Well, this may be one of the most boring games in this entire series. This is genuinely one of the most piss-easy games I have ever played in my life. I never got a single game over while playing this game because the level design is just so dumbed down. It's not even funny. I probably died less than 10 times. There are so many guardrails in these levels, like a lot of guardrails. It feels almost impossible to even lose in some of these levels because of how stupidly easy they are. They are some of the most linear levels I have ever seen in this series. There is not even an ounce of challenge in this game. I quite literally beat it in one sitting. I mean, I couldn't even imagine buying this game at the 3DS's launch. That must have felt like a total ripoff. You can also use the 3DS's gyro control to move around, but why would I want to do that when the circle pad is right there? There's also only 2 mini-games in this game. Monkey Race, which is now just a bad Mario Kart clone, and Monkey Fight, which is now just a bad Smash Brothers clone, completely stripping away the unique gameplay of the original Monkey Fight. I'm really running out of things to say about this game because there is really not much to it. I guess the music is alright. There's some pretty good tracks. Graphically, this game really isn't that special. The skyboxes honestly look kinda rough. This game is genuinely pathetic. Dare I say it's even worse than Step and Roll. There is absolutely no excuse for this game to be this easy because this game uses the frickin' circle pad, which is not a bad control setup for a Monkey Ball game. At least with Banana Blitz and Step and Roll, they had the excuse of them being designed around weird control schemes. So that's that game. It's a game that exists, it's a piece of software for the Nintendo 3DS, and it is one of the worst Monkey Ball games ever made. Now, Super Monkey Ball 3D was technically not the only Monkey Ball game released in 2011, as the series would return to its arcade roots with Super Monkey Ball Ticket Blitz. Now, I have actually seen one of these cabinets in person, maybe a couple times, though I don't think I've ever actually played this game. So I don't really have an opinion on it, but I gotta say the banana joystick from the original Monkey Ball arcade game from 2001 is way cooler than whatever the hell this trackball thing is. Next game up is Super Monkey Ball Banana Splits. This game was released for the PlayStation Vita in June of 2012 in Japan and everywhere else in October. This game was, weirdly enough, not developed by Sega in-house. Instead, it was developed by Marvelous. Now, the PS Vita is a system that I have absolutely no experience with, so this will be the first Vita game I have ever played. So, how is it? Well, it's actually a pretty damn good Monkey Ball game. First off, the level design is not bad at all. I was kind of concerned at the beginning of this game because the beginner levels were just rehashed from the previous Monkey Ball games. Now, I know Touch and Roll reused old levels too, but this is the Vita, so I expect more. And thankfully, the rest of the game, from what I played, has all new levels. Lots of fun and creative levels here. They finally got it right this time. In these levels, there's no more stupid guardrails. You have to actually be skillful, which is how it should be. This game is pretty challenging, a lot like the Gamecube games. I actually had to think and try in these levels, unlike Monkey Ball 3D. I legit ran out of lives and continues at one point. There's even levels here designed after the PlayStation buttons, since this is a Vita exclusive after all. I thought these ones were really cool. Reminds me of the Sega logo level from Monkey Ball 1. Now, for both Monkey Ball 3D and Banana Splits, I had to use emulators to record the footage of these games. Everything felt perfectly fine with Monkey Ball 3D, but something with Banana Splits felt off. The control felt sluggish, not snappy at all. So naturally, since this was my first ever time playing the game, I just blamed it on the game itself. Turns out, it was the emulator's fault. Either that or my Xbox controller I was using. Playing this game on an actual Vita, which I'm borrowing from my brother here, I do not own a Vita myself currently, it genuinely fixes a decent chunk of the issues with the control. It feels snappy, it feels responsive for the most part. It's crazy because if I had not tried this game on the actual Vita, I would have been under the impression that it was merely an okay monkey ball game. But playing with the Vita's analog stick genuinely makes this one of the better games in this series. However, despite the control being pretty solid in this game, it's still not quite as good as 1 and 2's controls. It's kinda close, but it's still lacking in some areas. It's definitely not as precise, the turning and momentum isn't perfect, but again, it's still not bad. Also, it seems you can only move in 4 directions, which is definitely the weakest and most baffling part of the control. Honestly though, I feel like Monkey Ball 3D had slightly better physics, but that game also doesn't really take advantage of those physics, so it's hard to tell. This game can also be controlled by the motion control of the PS Vita, but who the hell wants to do that? There are some things that do hold this game back for me though. First one is semi-nitpicky, but why the hell do you have to use the touchscreen to control the menu? I mean, it's not nearly as bad as Banana Blitz's menu control, but still. I guess I forgot to mention that about Banana Blitz, oops. You also have to use the touchscreen to speed up the level introductions and to skip replays. It's just so unnecessary. The music is alright, but nothing really stuck out to me if I'm being honest. This game does have a pretty unique visual style. It can be pretty cool at times, definitely not my ideal vision of how a monkey ball game should look, but for what it's worth, it's not bad. It's a solid looking game. The mini games are okay, I guess, but it doesn't pass the monkey target test, so it gets a no from me. There's even a mode in this game where you can use the PS Vita camera to create a level based on the objects in the picture you take. Pretty cool idea, but it definitely cannot make a good level. Overall, I was pleasantly surprised by this one. It's not a perfect game, but man, it feels nice to say that this is actually a good game. Too bad it's on the damn Vita. I really wish this game was on other platforms. But hey, this game definitely has me somewhat interested in picking up one of these bad boys for myself. Not for a while though. Wait, I'm not done! Did you know that in the Japanese version of this game, there was a code that came included with it that featured levels themed around Japanese model Yuki Kawamura? These DLC levels were considered lost media for years, until very recently actually. And with a modded Vita, you can actually install these levels on any version of the game. The levels feature her all throughout, and some of the level hazards are her breasts. These levels also caused the game to receive a higher age rating in Japan, which is not surprising in the slightest. Kawamura also seemed to be featured heavily in the marketing of this game in Japan. So Banana Splits honestly felt like a true return to form for the Monkey Ball series, but due to the console it was released on, it's often forgotten. For the next couple years after this game came out, there were no new entries in the Monkey Ball series, other than this shitty Peggle clone released in 2014. This game is called Super Monkey Ball Bounce. I don't actually know if this game is good or not, but it's delisted now, so I've basically got 0 chances to see if it's any good. But that was really it for a bit there, until 2019, when we got Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD, which came out in October of that year on the Switch, PS4, Xbox One, and a Steam release coming in December. Now, Banana Blitz is definitely a very odd choice of a game to remaster. I mean, the game probably sold pretty well because it was not only a game on the Wii, it was also a launch title, so that probably helped
boost a lot of sales.
But Banana Blitz is definitely not the most beloved entry in this series. It has its fans for sure, but I was always under the impression that it wasn't super well liked. As we saw earlier, I just thought this game was painfully mediocre. So this definitely is not a good choice of a game to remaster.
And the worst part about it is that Sega basically threatened the Monkey Ball series to not continue in the future if the game didn't sell well. What a bunch of schmucks. Don't you just hate it when companies do that? Like, remember when Nintendo did this exact same thing with Chibi Robo Ziplash, saying it may be the last chance for Chibi Robo? Fuck Sega and fuck Nintendo. So I really didn't want to buy this game, but here we are, I guess. It's only fair. I'm playing the Switch version here. Man, look at this combo pack of the game with Sonic Forces. This is probably the saddest combo pack of a game I've ever seen. So does this version really improve the Wii game? Well, kinda, but also not really, like, at all. So the major difference with this version is the ability to play this game with an analog stick. At first, that doesn't sound too bad. I mean, it sounds nice not having to play this game with one of the most imprecise control methods out there. The problem is that this game was very much designed around the Wii Remote motion control in mind. So giving it an analog stick can honestly break the game in many instances. It's a much easier game without the forced motion control as a result, which is somewhat of a blessing because man, that Wii control could get very annoying. But having a much more precise control method really shows a lot of the flaws with the linear level design. They also changed the music in this game for some very odd reason. It just makes no sense. Like, I don't get what was wrong with Banana Blitz's soundtrack that prompted them to change it. I mean, they could have easily included it instead. Apparently it was due to a licensing issue, but that just makes no sense. Like, Sega, you made the soundtrack. I mean, what went wrong? Even more baffling is that most of the songs in this game are just ripped directly from previous Monkey Ball games, like Monkey Ball 3D and, of course, 1 and 2. Just such a weird choice. Even weirder is that there's still one track from the Wii game that remains, which is the Hideki Naganuma track from World 3, which is a great track. Graphically, the game looks fine. Not really that much of an upgrade from the Wii version, other than the fact that it's in HD as opposed to the standard definition output of the Wii. But in some ways, I actually do prefer the more flat look of the Wii version. There's also a lot less minigames in this version, but they still suck pretty hard. Like, look at this slingshot one. It feels awful with an analog stick. I cannot for the life of me get an accurate aim. Monkey Target also still sucks, just like the Wii version. Overall, this version is just so weird. Like, it's Banana Blitz, it works, but I don't know, there's just so many weird changes to it, like the music. Even though I am definitely not a fan of Banana Blitz, I don't know, I'd honestly rather just play the Wii version. So, Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD came out, and yeah, it exists. But it seems like this game was successful enough to warrant this series getting new entries. So it was E3 2021, the last E3 ever. Kind of feels weird saying that, you know? Man, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was a sunny day in June. I watched Nintendo's E3 Direct, and there it was. Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania. A remake of Super Monkey Ball 1, 2, and Deluxe, releasing for the 20th anniversary of the series. I'm pretty sure I remember this game getting leaked beforehand, but that still didn't ruin my excitement at all, because seeing this game in that Direct meant it was official. I was quite excited for this game, and I didn't have to wait long either, as it would release in October of 2021. So I picked up the game and I was pretty underwhelmed. Something about it just felt so off. The new music was off. The physics didn't feel right. I didn't fully realize it in the moment, but I was quite disappointed. Now, I actually did play this game a decent amount because at the end of the day, it's still the same levels I knew and loved, but I just couldn't fully get on board with it. But it has been a while since I've last played this one, so maybe it isn't that bad. Let's find out. I will also be playing the Switch version, and it is also available on the PS4 and 5, Xbox One and Series consoles, and Steam. Starting off with the playable characters, we've got all the monkeys from the previous Monkey Ball games. They bring back Sonic like how he was in Banana Blitz HD. Guess I didn't mention how you could unlock him in that game, didn't I? And they also add Tails this time around. There's also other Sega characters, that being Beat from Jet Set Radio, and Kazuma Kiryu naturally, since this game was developed by RGG, who also develops Yakuza. There's also DLC characters in this game as well, none of which I have actually bought. They take a note from Star Parodier for the PC Engine CD by being able to play as a video game console, that being the Sega Game Gear, Saturn, and Dreamcast. These are actually really cool. Wish they were included in the base game. You can also buy Morgana from Persona 5, Suezo from Monster Rancher, and Hello Kitty. What? These three characters are also now delisted, so you can also get DLC of these hideously remade models of the original designs of the monkeys. These just look weird. They look way off from how they originally looked. Unlike Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, you can actually individually select each game's challenge modes from Monkey Ball 1 and 2 separately. The deluxe levels also have their own mode as well. They also bring back the story mode from Monkey Ball 2, with these very lazily put together cutscenes. They just look so weird, like we've got Dr. Bad Boon with this Gamecube model, clashing with the quote-unquote new designs for the monkeys. Like, you're really telling me they couldn't have remade the original cutscenes? So for the actual game itself, it's pretty rough. The game functions, it graphically looks decent, albeit a little cheap looking, and honestly, not as good looking as the originals. It's a totally playable game, but my god, these physics are just not good at all. They totally messed up the control. The turning is slow, the momentum is off, the physics are just totally incorrect. There's no snappiness or responsiveness to the control at all. It all feels very sluggish. This game feels almost nothing like the original games on GameCube. Not even Monkey Ball Deluxe. They also added a camera system, which I honestly think really overcomplicates the game. Slight movements of your monkey can be very frustrating in this game. The camera angle tends to twitch a little bit when you make slight movements. It really threw me off. It almost feels like it's not even registering my movements at times. This was something that was definitely not there on GameCube. Every slight movement felt right and responsive in 1 and 2. Now, maybe if you don't have the muscle memory from the original games, this may not really be an issue for you, but for a game that's supposed to be a remake of those games, it's really not unreasonable to expect it to control like how those games did. These levels just simply weren't designed with this control in mind. I mean, the entire time I was playing this game, I was just thinking how much better this game could have been if the control just wasn't so horrible. I just wish it felt like the originals. Kind of a nitpick, but man, the ball rolling sound effects are just not good. The rolling sounds on GameCube were way more impactful. They also completely butchered the absolutely incredible soundtracks. Some of the songs are fine, but most of them do not fit the game very well in my opinion. I mean, you're really telling me that this song fits the Zen Garden level? I don't think so. Some of them are even remixes of the old songs, but they just do not sound as good. But hey, at least you can toggle on the old music. Nope! They put the old music behind a $5 paywall. What a bunch of scumbags. Nickel and diming music that should have just been in the game in the first place is one of the biggest sins this game has committed in my eyes. This game also does not pass the monkey target test. I mean, look at how bad it looks when you go off the ramp. There's no speed gain from the player. The game just jarringly throws you off the ramp. It's honestly a lot like Banana Splits' monkey target, actually. The other mini games are fine here, I guess. The music in Monkey Billiards is actually pretty decent, though.
Overall, if this is like the only Monkey Ball game you've got, and you have absolutely no experience with the GameCube versions, then, you know, you might get some enjoyment out of it, but I really expected a lot more than this. So Banana Mania seemed to do pretty okay sales-wise and reception-wise. So this prompted Sega to make a brand new entry in this series in 2024 that wasn't a remake. The last fully original Monkey Ball game was Banana Splits on the Vita in 2012. That's 12 years of no original Monkey Ball games. So here we have it, releasing in June of 2024 exclusively for the Nintendo Switch, Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. Aye. What did they do to you?
Okay, I'm being a little overdramatic. I don't hate this design or anything, but like, I don't know, something about Ai's new design just feels off to me. It just feels somewhat over-designed. Like, why does Ai need to wear overalls? And where's his ass? The other monkeys look fine, I guess. We've also got a new monkey in this game named Palette. Before we even get into the rest of this game, I just gotta complain about the title of the game. Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. Enough with this banana shit. We have 4 respective games in this series with the word banana in the name. It just makes things really damn confusing. I think Banana Splits may be the most egregious because that's really easy to mess up with Banana Blitz. Sega, it's time to stop making your Monkey Ball names blend in with each other. When we currently have 3 Monkey Ball games released back to back with the name Banana in the title, that's bound to make people confused. Anyways, when you first boot up Banana Rumble, the game strangely enough starts out with a cutscene, which is very odd for a Monkey Ball game. Yeah, Super Monkey Ball 2 had a lot of cutscenes in its story mode, but it's not like the first thing that shows up in the game. There's a legendary banana hidden somewhere on Juicy Island, and what the frick is this 7 Chaos Emerald bullshit this game has going on? Like, could they have not been more on the nose with this one? This game's plot heavily revolves around the new monkey Palette, who's looking for her father and needs help finding the legendary banana. That's basically the plot of this game. There's also a group of non-monkey characters in this game named the Gala family, who are rivals at first but later help the monkeys. Overall, the cutscenes are okay. I feel like it tries to take itself slightly too seriously at times. I honestly preferred Monkey Ball 2's story. It didn't feel like it was taking itself seriously at all. But I'm not gonna act like Monkey Ball 2's story is high art or anything. Now, the most important part of any Monkey Ball game is the gameplay. And for the first completely original Monkey Ball game in over a decade, how is it? Well, honestly, I have no idea how to feel about this game. So this game's control is definitely based on Banana Mania, but to its credit, it honestly feels better than Banana Mania. Since the levels are designed around the new physics and control, it doesn't feel terrible, unlike how Banana Mania did with levels that just weren't designed for the physics engine it used. That being said, just because the levels are designed around the control, it doesn't automatically excuse the issues with the control. The game feels weirdly stiff to move around. There's really not a lot of range in the movement because of the stiffness. Some of the issues of Banana Mania's control are also carried over, like the momentum being weird. Overall, the control and physics don't feel like complete garbage, but they are leagues behind 1 and 2's amazing physics and control. This game also isn't done with the Sonic influence, because this game includes a spin dash. By holding down the B button, you can charge up the spin dash and shoot yourself in a specific direction. Some levels are specifically designed around the spin dash, but honestly, for the levels that don't require it, I honestly found the spin dash to not be very useful. Another clear Sonic influence are these dash panels here. I honestly greatly dislike these in this game. They seem like a compromise for the gimped momentum in this game. This was certainly an element from Banana Blitz that did not need to come back. Now, I did briefly mention the level design earlier, and it's definitely not awful in this game. There's some pretty neat ideas. They really got it right this time, for the most part. It's just too bad the control isn't great. The game also isn't as challenging as I would like. Now, maybe I'm just used to Monkey Ball, but I was able to finish most of the worlds in this game without breaking a sweat. It was only until the final world in this game that I actually felt challenged. But this could just be a me problem. Like, if this is your first Monkey Ball game, I could definitely see this as being somewhat challenging. But once again, going back to Monkey Ball 1 and 2, those games probably took me over a month to complete. Where this game, I practically beat it in one sitting. I'm not even asking for you to make it as hard as Monkey Ball 1 and 2, but just give us die-hard Monkey Ball fans some more challenge. Graphically, the game looks pretty solid. The level environments almost feel like a mix of the 1 and 2 art style and the Banana Blitz art style. Not all of the level environments are bangers, but I really like stuff like World 4 and World 8's level environments. I don't have much to say about the music. Definitely a step up from Banana Mania's soundtrack. There's some stinkers and there's some bangers. This game also doesn't have a traditional party game mode. Instead, there's a battle mode, which is just weird. The party games were such a staple of this series. No monkey target to be seen here. Though some of the battle mode games are similar to some of the party games seen in the previous games, which is neat, but man, the frame rate on these battle mode games is super jarring compared to the main game. I guess I didn't talk about the DLC characters of this game. We've got Knuckles and Amy now, Axel from Crazy Taxi, Hatsune Miku, Pac-Man, frickin' Godzilla, Red from Angry Birds? I forgot Sega owns that now. And the crewmate from Among Us? The hell? So overall, I just don't really know how to feel about this game. I'm honestly quite mixed. I definitely don't think it's a bad game. I don't even think it's a mediocre game. At its best, it's a fairly okay Monkey Ball game, but overall, I just don't really see myself coming back to this one, unfortunately. It has some good ideas, but it just doesn't reach its fullest potential. So those were the other Super Monkey Ball games that weren't Monkey Ball 1 and 2. So after all of this, how do I feel? I don't know! Starting off with the positives, I really liked Touch and Roll and Banana Splits. Touch and Roll was just so cool because despite it being on a handheld you wouldn't necessarily think would make a great Monkey Ball game, it's genuinely really good. Banana Splits felt like a return to form for Super Monkey Ball. The physics are definitely not perfect, but they still feel quite good, and the level design is excellent in that game. These are games I would genuinely want to play again, but I really can't say that about the rest of these games. Specifically, all the other games released after Touch and Roll, other than Banana Splits, obviously. These games either range from being mediocre like Banana Blitz to just the absolute bottom of the barrel like Monkey Ball Adventure, 3D, and Step and Roll. It just really sucks because like I said in the beginning of this video, Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2 are some of my favorite games of all time, with Super Monkey Ball 2 just being my absolute favorite game ever made. So it's honestly really disheartening to know that most of the games in this series could barely even match the greatness of Monkey Ball 1 and 2. Hell, they couldn't even match the quality of 1 and 2, and even Deluxe with Banana Mania. What a disappointment. And Banana Rumble is just okay.
Now, if you were able to get something out of the games in this video that I wasn't particularly a fan of, more power to you. That's really cool that you were able to get something out of these. I really wish I could have too. At the time of me making this video, it really hasn't been that long since Banana Rumble came out. So hopefully they're cooking up a new Monkey Ball game that lives up to the originals. But I will continue to enjoy these games for years to come. But if I ever want a change of pace, I've got Touch and Roll and Banana Splits. That was really long.